Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to episode 17 of Planet FPL Correspondent Week. And first up on day five of Correspondent Week, it's our Arsenal correspondent. It's Adam Pritchard. How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm doing good, thanks, James. Very good.
Good stuff. You have a new number nine in the door. Happy with the selection of Victor Gyokeres, mate.
Well, a new number 14 in the door if we want to get technical about
Oh,
it.
he thinks he's on Reed, does he? That's a bad start.
Or he thinks he's in Ketia. One of them two.
If he's half as good as Tom Reed,
Yeah,
he'll do all right.
I suspect he'll be somewhere in the middle of those two players. But yeah, no, I think to be honest, I don't want to call it a saga, but the whole interest and is it going to be Sesko? Is it going to be Gyökeres? I think that was dragging on enough to the point where I was kind of just like, let's just pick one of them, sign one of them. And it seems like as is kind of being drawn out through the Man United and Newcastle interest, the Sesko camp, if you want to call it that, their demands and Leipzig's demands were getting too high. And we were able to get the Gyökeres deal over the line. And yeah, I think I'm very excited to see how it affects the rest of our attack for sure, because he's bringing something very, very different that we haven't had in the squad in a very, very long time. With the kind of like pace, off the ball movement, the types of runs he makes. Even Aubameyang is maybe the last player we would have had who did something similar, but kind of obviously with his fall off the age curve, he only really did that for like a season or so. So yeah, no, I'm pretty happy to get it over the line for sure.
Okay. He's coming at 9 million. You tempted?
So this is the thing. I think obviously Arsenal, or at time of recording, Arsenal played a friendly last night, the penultimate friendly, and surprisingly to me and a few other Arsenal fans I was speaking to, he started. Because I had always been of the mind that because of the adaptation that both he will need, having not had a pre-season after he kind of went on strike at Sporting, and the adaptation that the team will need to change the play style in order to kind of best suit his abilities. In my mind, that I was thinking there was maybe like a 20% chance he would start against United on the opening day. I was pretty confident it would be Havertz starting that game. But then obviously him getting the nod at time of recording, like I was saying last night, in the friendly, it gives me pause for thought. Maybe there's something with Havertz coming back from injury that we weren't aware of previously. I think Arteta said in the press conference afterwards that he expects Havertz to be fit for the opening day, but is that fit enough to be on the bench? Do we trust what Arteta says there? Who knows?
Do we trust Arteta? Why did you
Yeah,
mention that?
yeah, exactly. Just throwing that spanner in the works. So I wasn't tempted initially because of that reservation over whether he would start. The potential doubts over Havertz's fitness for that opening game would give me more confidence, obviously, that he'll start. I don't know if it increases my interest anymore necessarily.
You've got another game on Saturday
Correct.
against Athletic Bilbao. Is going to give us a bigger clue here, isn't it? I guess for Gyökeres specifically, it's positive that he's played basically an hour on Wednesday night.
Mhm.
If he starts again against Bilbao on Saturday, we've got, I think he's going to start at United, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah. I would think so. And obviously, with the kind of nature of injury that Havertz is coming back from, you've got to be a little bit more cautious. And I think one of the biggest issues Arsenal have had in the last couple of years, where we've like slightly tailed off, has been with mismanaging players returning from injuries. So I think the added depth that we've now got in attack means that we just don't need to take that risk anymore. Like if he's even 75, 80% fit, we quite frankly shouldn't start him because he's going to be a very important part of our squads for the rest of the season. So there's no point in risking it when you've got someone who obviously there's the narrative that it's against Man United, his old manager, the club that wanted to sign him. He's going to be very, very hungry to prove himself.
Okay. So let's say Gyökeres plays another hour at the weekend. Then we think he's good to go for Manchester United game week one. How do you feel about him versus, say, Watkins at the same price?
So I kind of hinted at it earlier, but I think people are underestimating this significant shift in style of a striker that Gyokeres is against Havertz. Like Gyokeres likes to drift out wide. He makes runs in behind. Like more traditionally, he would do that on the left-hand side. But even in the friendly that he did start in midweek, I saw a couple of times where it was more on the right-hand side, but him and Saka were not crowding each other out. And again, this is his first start, his first real game time with these players, but they were kind of occupying a couple of the same spaces. There were a few times where I think there was one chance where Lewis Skelly had potentially could have played it forward to him. Gyökeres was on the move, and Lewis Skelly played it backwards as he would be accustomed to if he's playing with a Kai Havertz type striker who isn't going to be making those runs in behind as often. So I think the team needs to sort of a bit like how City did with Haaland, where they need to learn to look for those runs. I think that kind of adaptation is going to be there for Arsenal with this different type of striker. And obviously, Haaland was good enough that it kind of didn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the ground running massively.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like obviously, I don't think anyone is trying to claim that Gyökeres is of that same level. It's whether you think he's going to be able to get enough chances anyway to overcome this quite significant stylistic adaptation. I'm not 100% sure he will, given the kind of more difficult nature of our start. Obviously, there's the kind of game week 2 fixture that is much, much, much more appealing than the rest of them around them. But yeah, there's going to have to be quite a significant shift in mentality when the Arsenal players are looking for that central figure.
So needs a bit of time to adapt.
Mm.
Fixtures are tough, which we'll come back onto certainly in terms of the start. It sounds like you're no to start.
Yeah, yeah, I'm no for that kind of
Okay.
opening view.
Are you no to Madueke? Were you tweeting that out as well?
Um, I really I really want Madueke to work as a player, uh, but I think the uncertainty over what's going to happen with that left hand side from an FPL perspective, the uncertainty of what's going to happen on that left hand side, the question marks over the kind of like Eze transfer rumors as well. At the moment, that is enough to kind of make me think maybe he doesn't start that opening game. Obviously, he had time off after the Club World Cup. He's only just started training with the squad this week, I think. So that is enough to put me off. But I think there is a very, very strong chance that he does establish himself as our number one option on the left-hand side. And at the price he's come in at, that would be appealing to me for sure.
Yeah, it feels like too many question marks to start with for
Yeah,
FPL.
yeah.
Also, we should factor in his involvement for Chelsea at the Club World Cup
Mm.
as well, means that his pre-season does not look like the others. That was his first appearance last night
Yeah,
as well, I want to say. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, do you foresee, let's say you buy Eze, and
Mhm,
I've even read reports that you view maybe even Eze to play more a central role.
mhm.
But let's say it goes that way and Eze's brought in, he plays on the left, or you get Rodrigo from Real Madrid, or whatever you do. Do you foresee Madueke therefore as just a backup to Saka potentially?
No, not necessarily. I think what the all the kind of attacking signings that we've made so far and the Eze links indicate is the need for some players who are more aggressive with the ball. Like that's what I kind of think of when I think of Madueke especially, and he's like very obviously he plays out wide, but he had a lot of touches in the penalty area last season. He likes to kind of take players on as well. Is much more likely to be aggressive with his dribbling, and I think that's something we've maybe not seen the likes of Martinelli execute since he kind of came back from his knee injury a couple of seasons ago. And it's something that Eze does very well too, is he's very happy to take players on with the dribble. So I think what those players are designed to do is just to give another dimension to our attack. I like you said, I think Arsenal have viewed Eze as an option through the middle more so than an option out left, but obviously he can play out wide. Um, Madueke obviously can play on the right, but it seems as though he has been bought with an eye to certainly be a potential starter on the left-hand side too. So I think this is all just about adding both a variety in personnel, but then a variety in play styles in each position as well.
Are you expecting more business? Like, are you expecting Eze to happen?
There's been so much talk, and not just like kind of the traditional transfer talk, but the detail that we've had in terms of, I think I even saw a few days ago that it seems like Arsenal have agreed with Crystal Palace the structure of an upfront payment between like 30 and 35 million initially, and then how the rest of the fees could be structured over the next like 1, 2 years is what is being discussed. So I don't get the sense we would enter into those discussions if we weren't serious about it. Obviously, having had the opportunity to activate his release clause previously and then not doing so makes me think, oh, maybe this is a nice to have move. Um, so yeah, I think it certainly could happen. The Eze deal. I don't think now something like Rodrigo would happen, and I'd be very surprised if something like Rafael Leao or Anthony Gordon and the kind of other players that we've been linked to on the left hand side. I think I'd be quite surprised if any of those players came through the door.
Okay. So you could be business done, maybe?
Yeah, 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 I think so.
Okay. Squad depth looks much better. Overall, with people like Mascara coming in, we might touch on in a bit. Two new central midfielders. I guess we're calling them sixes, basically.
Mhm.
Zubimendi and Norgaard. What do you make of these two signings?
I think they're both very, very smart pieces of business. I think obviously with the players departing, we needed to refresh the midfield. And I think touching on Norgard first, I think there were maybe people who were a little bit, I say people, Arsenal fans love a moan. But
No.
yeah, it'll be shocking to everyone to hear this. I think people were slightly annoyed that we brought in an older player rather than going for somebody a bit younger. But when you think about um, the way kind of most modern coaches set up, where they've got that central pivot in midfield, is like the coach on the pitch. They're the kind of marshal of the attack and the defense, and that's a lot to put on a young player as a backup. Whereas getting Norgard for a pretty reasonable fee, I think, an experienced Premier League player, like very calm and composed. I think it's a very, very smart signing, someone to kind of step into that Jorginho mold, who can use his experience off the pitch as well, hopefully, and kind of help develop some of those younger players that we have in midfield. And also someone to take that adaptation pressure off someone like Zubimendi, who, given the pressure of the role, coming in to a much more physically demanding league, there's going to be an element of adaptation for him as well. But I think Zubimendi is more than up to the task. I think he's like, even though his stats, he's a bit of a weird player to profile because I don't think his stats come out particularly impressively from a midfield perspective. But I think that's more because of the team that he was in. And the way, if you, or the brief bits that I saw of him in La Liga, he's always offering himself both in attack and defense. So a lot of his passes perhaps don't look as like progressive as they might be. But I think that's because he's like a pressure reliever essentially for the rest of his teammates, someone who kind of keeps the game ticking over.
We're
And
kind of talking
then
out a kind of horrible name to put in the conversation, but kind of Busquets mold more. We
I think so. I think he can also punch the ball forwards with a little bit more.
so good Busquets.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I think maybe when people think of Busquets, they think of that kind of like the metronome in the middle of midfield and
Mm.
maybe kind of a bit subservient to the kind of more dynamic midfielders he had either side. Being subservient to Iniesta and Xavi is no knock on him, obviously, but like when you've seen Zubimendi play for Spain, for example, he is capable of going more advanced and kind of operating as that the person who plays the final pass into the penalty area. I just think with the freedom that Declan Rice is given, and obviously the kind of creative control that Odegaard has over the side, we're maybe not as likely to see that from him necessarily. But I think it's certainly something that he is capable of, and hopefully by being a player who is able to relieve pressure, especially on the defense as we build from the back, it should help Odegaard and Rice essentially not drop too deep and feel like they have to do that work themselves. Because it did feel sometimes when we were struggling most for creativity last season, I think it was when Odegaard was dropping deep and almost felt like I've got to do it all myself, essentially. And then he's not there to make that kind of final linking pass. I'm hoping that Zubimendi will stop him doing that and will relieve that pressure.
Okay. I think Martin Odegaard is always going to be drawn towards ball, mate. I think
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
natural for him.
Yeah.
Um, from number sixes to a tough opening six, it's a fairly brutal opening six fixtures, mate. Manchester United away, Leeds at home, Liverpool away, Nottingham Forest and Manchester City at home, and then a trip to Newcastle. If you get 18 points from that, mate, I think you'll be winning the title. But it could disappear quickly if it all goes wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe the away at Old Trafford, I think, holds as much kind of narrative fear, maybe more narrative fear as it does like actual like competitive fear. Like I think that is traditionally a very big game. I don't think we should forget, and we can't forget because it's so funny where Man United finished last season. So maybe on paper that's a slightly tougher fixture than it might be in reality. But yeah, no one wants to have that on the opening
I
day.
think just I had a lot of the correspondents tipped them to finish fifth.
Okay, that's probably not where I've got them, but that's
Well,
that's
I mean, that
maybe.
front line is looking very different now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Whether their styles, this isn't like I'm no Man United expert, and everyone can listen to the Man United episode to get a better view of it. I question whether their styles are suited to each other necessarily, but it's certainly not on the opening day of the season. They're not going to be as good as they will be in kind of 3, 4, 5 months' time. But yeah, no, regardless, that's a tough opening. Like that Liverpool away game is not something you want third up for sure, especially when we've got potentially the half a spine of the team still adapting to playing in this new system. We're probably not going to be at our best. I mean, probably not until maybe we'll start to be more how we could look at the Nottingham Forest at home game. But even then, I wouldn't expect us to be in full flow with the amount of new signings that we've got coming in. So yeah, it's not a great start. That's for sure.
No, but it's worth saying, acknowledging, obviously, it's clear what happens afterwards. There's then a very, very good run of fixtures. Not a lot of people kind of identify maybe wild card around game week 7, 8 to take advantage specifically to get the right Arsenal assets in. Okay, talk to me about Saka. How's he looked in pre-season?
Yeah, like he's looked like Saka has looked. He's looked like quite often he will. Sounds silly to say here, like he's clearly going to be our best player this season. I don't think anyone needs to doubt his like individual quality. Like this is maybe the first time we're coming into a season where I'm not worried that he's going to be like limping on or he's going to be hopping on one leg out the tunnel on the opening day. Um, and I think the fact that we now go into a season where we have so much more attacking depth is that I would hope he's not going to kind of be flogged to the extent that he has been under Arteta so far. Um, and with the kind of the hopefully greater attacking depth we have, I think that's only going to bring more out of Saka when you've got a forward who is able to, in Gyokeres, kind of take the attention of defenders away and offer an additional threat in behind. I would hope we're not going to see the situation that we saw so many times last season where teams kind of double and triple up on him and we just try and kick him out of the game essentially because they won't be able to because we've got a more varied way of attacking defenses now. I think in theory that should only bring the best out of him.
Do you think further down the line he'll always play if he's got one leg attached?
Um, I mean, in the league, I think Arteta's ideal scenario is that he probably starts every game. Like maybe there will be a time where we're in the latter stage of the Champions League and we have a favourable home fixture where it'll be like, you know what, Saka, you can sit this one out. I'll play Madueke on the right,
Yeah,
and
with Madueke as a profile player now feels way more natural than you kind of having the shunt like Martinelli or Trossard out to
Mhm.
that side. Feels like it's something that I don't want to say commonplace, but you should begin to look at and know that he's there in the last half hour if you really need him.
Exactly. I think that's where the biggest difference will come. It'll be we'll actually be able to substitute Saka off, and it won't be obviously it will be a downgrade because he's like one of the best players in the league and he's our best player. But it's not like you're saying you're putting an out of form Martinelli out of position, or you're putting a Ethan Nwaneri who's very inexperienced, sort of a little bit out of position as well. So yeah, hopefully he'll be subbed off earlier more often.
Do you think you'll start with him in FPL?
No, no, I don't think I will. But that is as much due to the kind of structure of the team that I'm looking at, and also the start that we have. Like I was kind of talking about with Gyokeres and Havertz and the striker situation, I'm kind of a bit like with that uncertainty, I'm happy enough to avoid Arsenal attackers until that West Ham game when we've got a bit more of an idea of both how players have adapted, how they've settled in, and the types of games we use different players in, if that makes sense. Once I get a better picture of that, then I think I'll be happier to make my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Palmer to Saka could be quite popular in game week 7, but actually Chelsea have good fixtures again
Mm,
after that, so not necessarily the case. I think many people might be looking to find an avenue to try and get both in
mm.
at that point. It does feel like Palmer is worth zero point 0.5 more over Saka to start with.
Yeah, yeah. I think with the fixtures, that's a pretty easy decision for most people.
Okay. But game week 2, Leeds at home stands like a little bit of an anomaly in the middle of obviously your difficult opening fixtures. And it stands as an anomaly for many other teams as well. Obviously, Newcastle, Liverpool playing each other. Tottenham assets might be interesting game week 1, but they go to the Etihad. Chelsea go to West Ham. Manchester United go to Fulham. It's not a great set of fixtures game week 2. It's a away game for Villa as well. Standout for captaincy in game week 2, I guess, is Haaland against Tottenham or an Arsenal player, Adam. And
Mm.
yet we're saying start with no attackers, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously always the option that I know a few people have floated around is do you want a free hit in game week 2? I know some people are considering bench boosting in game week 2 as well. There's a lot of with the kind of added dimension of the extra set of chips. I would imagine there are a lot of people who are going to be using two in the first two game weeks. It's just kind of what your approach is to game week 1, I think, then kind of leads on to how you're going to approach that second game week. Like as someone who is planning on a game week 1 bench boost, it's harder to say than I thought. I would, if I had any Arsenal attackers, I think I would have a strong enough bench to be able to rotate. Realize that's obviously not an option for everyone, but is people just have to factor in, do they think going for Saka? I think we've kind of decided that that would be the most secure premium option. Is it worth, like, is Leeds at home worth, let's say, at least the kind of Liverpool away and Man United away games? Like, I wouldn't be 100% sold on that.
No, but free hitting in game week 2 will appeal to many.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
obviously,
no.
under that circumstance, it's a near certainty of treble Arsenal with the
Hmm.
fixtures that week.
Yeah.
I guess if it's an Arsenal player for captaincy rather than Haaland,
Mhm.
which might be subject to our Tottenham look at defensively over the next couple of weeks, then it's Saka or Gyökeres, I guess. And
Mhm.
it might just default to Saka if we haven't got confidence in Gyökeres, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think even if we knew, if you told me that Gyökeres was starting that game, and I had both of them, I would still go with Saka.
Okay, interesting. I take it on top of that, if you were going that route, you'd go one defensive, would you? On top of those two, or double defensive? We haven't got confidence in Gyökeres, maybe.
Yeah, I think it would probably be that. Like if it turns out we go to Old Trafford and we find out that Havertz has had a setback in his injury and he's actually going to be out for another couple of weeks, then maybe I'd fancy a little bit of a punt on Gyökeres there in that home game. But otherwise, I think maybe the double defensive would be the way to go.
Okay. 6 million each, Gabriel and Saliba. The preference generally within the community has been Gabriel over the last couple of years. I know he came on as a substitute against Villarreal, obviously on Wednesday night. Gabriel still for you, or more of a case for Saliba?
I think Gabriel. I think if you're deciding between the two of them, it's the as boring as it is from a ownership perspective, it's probably the safer pick. And you've got the kind of history of the threat from the set pieces that I think makes him the standout there.
Are you considering starting with him?
So I am considering it. Currently, I've got Lewis Skelly in, but I do have money in the bank in my current draft. So it depends kind of where, if I think I'm going to use that extra million as I kind of consider my team more over the next week. If I don't see anywhere else I can upgrade, then I think I probably will just go Lewis Skelly to Gabriel ahead of game week one.
Yeah, I've been very much looking at sort of Van Dijk to Gabriel in game week 7, but
Mm.
you do think about that sort of thing. You think, should I be planning in a transfer? Because once I hit game week 7, I definitely want an Arsenal defensive. So if
Mhm.
I'm not wildcarding at that point, which I know many are going to do, you do look at it and think, should I just start with him? Because in some of these difficult games like Liverpool, City, Newcastle away, you could pick up the def cons and stuff, and we know that you're capable of keeping a clean sheet in nearly any game, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he does come out. He does come
Look
out
at the
very
big
healthy.
returns Tottenham and Man City game week 4 and 5, both away last season, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like you say, he shows up well in the defensive contributions too. Perhaps somewhat surprisingly to a few people. So yeah, there is that added factor to consider.
Okay. Gabriel for you to have the toe.
Hmm.
Okay. Would you consider any of the other 5.5s worth a saving? And I guess probably an extension of that because I think you're going to say no. Are we looking at Lewis Skelly and Timber being first choice?
So would I consider the saving? Like I say, currently I do have Lewis Skelly in my side. I think he is perhaps more likely to, if I was to say one of them or one of the three fullbacks that I think is definitely going to start in that first game, I would say Lewis Skelly would be the one. I think uh, White coming back to fitness, coming back in the fold more, um, is more of a threat to Timber's position as a right back than Timber is a threat to Lewis Skelly's position as a left back, if that makes sense. Partly
Okay.
just because we've seen it more. And when there is enough significant change elsewhere in the team, I don't know if you want to be adding in those extra variables. Like we've seen how, given how tough on paper that opening 5, 6 fixtures are, when you've got two players who are comfortable inverting and adding that extra solidity into the central midfield, that to me would make sense when you've got a new defensive midfielder to kind of have two players who are comfortable supporting that central area of the pitch than having someone with Ben White who, even though it's not like he's not like a Frimpong who's going to like be bombing down the wing at 100 miles an hour, he is by far the most comfortable of those fullbacks, I think, on the outside. So to me, I think it would make sense if the defense was more structured in that way.
Okay. Are we considering Calafiori as still a left back? Or I know there's been some speculation about Jakub Kiwior moving on.
Mm.
Are we considering maybe even as a backup left-sided centre back now? Because he certainly
Uh,
can play there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, they can both Kiwior and Calafiori can like obviously both play left-sided centre back and left back. I think Calafiori at the moment is just a bit of an injury doubt. Like obviously he had the kind of patchy season last year. He's missed out on a fair bit of pre-season through like little niggles and stuff like that. Arteta has said that he expects him to be fit for that opening game, but I don't think he'll start. I'm just kind of he's a player that I need to see him looking fit and looking good. I mean, he always looks fit, to be fair to him. He's a very attractive man, but I need to see him on the pitch consistently before I think he would be a real threat to that starting left back spot.
Okay. So, do you see any sense in the other? I know you're saying Lewis Skelly's in. Do you think Lewis Skelly is specifically worth a saving versus Gabriel? Or is it
Um,
just fits structured pricing better, or what is it?
yeah, it kind of just fits where I'm at the moment because I'm bench boosting. I've got more of a mind on having like a fuller squad, obviously. Um, so it's whether kind of as I look at that, do I think is the likelihood of a clean sheet in those kind of opening games worth the extra point 0.5, or can I spike the potential attacking returns from a more expensive midfielder so I'm not having to kind of so I'm not having to shop in the kind of 5.5 ballpark for those players, and not having to obviously with the kind of nature of the striker position and how thin on the ground that is. So I'm not having to go as low as like a 6 million up there.
Okay, makes sense. Raya, are we overlooking his ownership still? I think he's actually the second highest owned goalkeeper in the game at the moment. Doesn't feel like it if you look through socials.
Mm.
5.5, should we be considering as that versus Lewis Skelly and the saving versus Gabriel?
I just kind of wonder if premium goalkeepers are as attractive given the added DEFCON points that we're going to see. Like, I think I wonder if their appeal has, and obviously we can't really know how it's going to work out as of yet, but everything I'm seeing is that those kind of premium or defenders are going to score more points essentially, obviously. Um, and so I'm not as attractive to a premium goalkeeper as I am. I'd be more likely to spend 5.5 on a defender from another team, I think, than I would.
I
Um,
think when you look at most of these at the moment, it's often right. I'll pick the defensive one rather than the goalkeeper. Somewhere the goalkeeper choice has to be made, right?
Mm.
And you know what you get from yours, a certain amount of reliability in terms of what the numbers will be, and it
Mhm.
potentially give you some coverage from the start. And you don't want to be pissing about the goalkeeper positions. If you are looking right, I want a wild card before Christmas. I wouldn't suggest he's necessarily a bad pick if you want the coverage. What happens in a scenario where we're sitting there and going, shit, I want Van Dijk, I want Eight Nori, I want Munoz, and we're like, hang on, well, I can get my Arsenal coverage from Raya rather than Gabriel.
Or alternatively, you can look at the fact that we've now got a potential 4.0 starting goalkeeper. There are a couple of 4.5s that I think will emerge at the start of the season, and especially when a lot of people are bench boosting early doors. Would you rather essentially spend 9.5 or 8.5 on a position that we think, from an overall points perspective, is less attractive than the defensive positions? That's where I've ended up. I just don't think the goalkeeper position is as attractive.
I agree with you, Adam. My attempts to play devil's advocate were not successful. I assume there's no doubt to his place in the team. Obviously, Kepa's arrived now, which is a much better quality. I'm going to guess number two goalkeeper. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. No, Raya will be starting.
Okay, talk to me about Martin Odegaard. 8 million. It's
Mm.
basically in nobody's team at the moment, as far as I can see. Kind of big disappointment, even particularly, I think, even more so for many Arsenal fans than many neutrals. I think most neutrals seem a little bit more sympathetic to the fact he had a really bad injury in the first half of last season.
Mm.
It's a real concern that he's had a big drop off. He's a super player, really.
Yeah, it's I think, like you say, I think a lot of Arsenal fans have, or certainly towards the end of last season, were losing patience with him. But I was always of the mind, like you mentioned, he had just come back from a very significant injury and was thrust not just like straight back into the team, but thrust straight back into a team that was also missing other players. So had that kind of extra burden on him and was put in a position where Arsenal were needing to win immediately. Like there was no, he's like we've seen with Saka over past seasons, there was no break for him at all. I think maybe what we're seeing in the way that the profile of the attack is changing and with the links to Eze is that we are hopefully not going to be as reliant on him to be like that kind of sole creative output in midfield. I still think on his day, I think he's an absolute world-class player, and I think he has the potential to be, if not one of the best players in the league, certainly one of the best midfielders in the league. I think it was last season, obviously, it was a drop off. I think it was a factor of that injury and the general downturn in performance from Arsenal, more broadly, saw that. And there were signs of him, I think, in the last couple of games that he played, that he was finding that kind of, especially the shooting confidence that he had a couple of seasons ago. Um, like I remember very distinctly against PSG, like he had a couple of good shots from outside the box. He obviously had the one against Southampton as well. So I think there were signs that maybe he was working his way back to his best. I would just hope, like with Saka, he's not going to be overburdened again, so we can see the best of him.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I'll just say to people in his previous two seasons prior to the last one, 42 attacking returns. I'm not suggesting anyone goes and starts with that, but the fixtures you've got and what we've seen since his return, but he wouldn't be far from my thinking. I can definitely foresee a situation here where I think, oh, he looks great in game week one, and I free hit game week two, and I go, I'm gonna stick him in for that one game. If I haven't
Yeah,
got the confidence in Gyökeres, I can see that.
yeah, and I like from a personal biases perspective, like I absolutely love him as a player. And I, like I said, I think he's got the potential to be
Yeah,
one of the
I'll
best
tell all
players
you
in the league.
gooners, if you don't want him, you can take any one of my players. I'm happy to talk business with you. Let's cover some other midfielders. Declan Rice is getting a little bit of interest for fantasy, Adam. 6.5. It's added defcons. We know he can take a free kick now. He'll take a few of the corners, wouldn't he? I suppose probably half of them. What do you think?
Yeah, not necessarily for me, but I can kind of understand the appeal. I think as soon as people heard about the DEFCON points, there was like an instant rush to the kind of Declan Rice type of profile. And like we've seen, and like I mentioned earlier, in terms of Zubimendi hopefully being able to offer more of a relief in possession on the defense, hopefully that should give Rice more license to kind of do what we were seeing him do when he really grabbed games by the scruff of the neck and take the ball forward more. Not someone I've really considered at the moment, both partially due to the start and also due to the fact that the left wing spot is only 7 million essentially in this Arsenal team at the moment. So I think if, as I suspect, Madueke might emerge as an option there, I think it would be worth that little bit more for me. The the appeal of a attacking winger in a title challenging side is always going to be more appealing than a kind of box to box midfielder is. Um, so yeah, I think that would be my hesitancy to going with him.
Okay, you've nailed the follow-up question. So again, I'm assuming not from the start, but you're in terms of in your mind what you want to keep an eye on most for fantasy, Madueke over Martinelli and Trossard, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly over Trossard, I think if one of Martinelli or Trossard is going to be sold, I think it will be Trossard. And even though it hasn't been said explicitly in kind of some of the reporting, I would imagine we need to make a sale if Eze is to come in. Uh, maybe not from a financial perspective, but from like a squad perspective, because there isn't going to be room for them all, quite frankly. Um, so yeah, I have a feeling both with how Martinelli was performing last season and how he's performed in pre-season, that Madueke has a real chance to establish himself on the left wing.
Okay, couple of quick fire ones. Mikel Merino,
No.
he's back. Is he just a midfielder again now, or
Um, well, I guess a part of it depends on the Havertz situation.
yeah?
He'll be the kind of backup forward uh, in emergency, like in case of emergency, break glass for Marino kind of situation. But yeah, I think he's just a sub option really at this point.
Okay, is Ethan Nwaneri contract situation sorted?
Uh, in all but pen to paper, yeah, I think there was a bit of concern in the summer. There was the kind of there was the unfortunate timing, I want to say, of it was when the Madueke deal was getting finalized and Chelsea made an inquiry about him. And I think that set people's heads on fire. yeah, no, I think that's fine.
because he's in last year, isn't he?
Yeah.
We expecting Reece Nelson possibly to go back to Fulham.
Yeah, both Reece Nelson and Zinchenko have been linked to Fulham recently.
Yeah, Lewis mentioned Zinchenko to me after the podcast, actually.
I think the Nelson stuff looks like it will be a loan with either an option or obligation to buy. And I think the Zinchenko stuff would have to be an outright sale. Um,
Okay. And one more who's not got a price at the moment. Me and Adam double checked several times over because he probably should have one, really. A word on Max Stoneman, mate.
yeah, only 15 years old, which seems crazy to say. Um, but an incredibly exciting attacking prospect that the academy or the people who know the academy have been talking about for a while. I know you mentioned that Clayton mentioned him to you a couple of months ago. He's been playing up the age groups for a few years now, and in pre-season has really been the one player that I think has excited fans and got them off the edge of the seat. You saw both in the tour games that we played, particularly against Newcastle, the ease with which he beats people on the ball is so impressive. The confidence he has, and something I said about Nwaneri when he made his sub appearance against Leicester, I think it was in the league, was you can always tell how good a young player is by how the other players react to them and how they look for them when they've got the ball. And in the friendly that we played last night at the Emirates, the players are looking for him
No
on the ball.
hesitancy, right?
They're
Yeah.
trusting him so much. And obviously, he won a penalty in the game last night. And yeah, I'm wary of putting too much on him because obviously he's still a baby. He's still got so much to learn about the game and so much to grow and develop physically, that you just don't know how that is going to change his skill set at all. But he's an incredibly exciting player.
I mean, he's so young as well. He's not going to get sent off somewhere on loan, right? I
No.
suppose he's going to be on the fringes on it. And when maybe you have like a more routine Champions League home fixture or something, we can probably expect to see a bit of him, right?
Yeah, I think the kind of League Cup home
Yeah.
ties are where a bit like Ethan Nwaneri was last season. I think Nwaneri probably played more just due to like circumstance and needs than Arteta would have planned. Otherwise, I think we'll see Dauman get in those kind of like those cup games where he'll get a start every now and then, and maybe a few sub appearances if a home game is comfortable and won.
Okay. On Havertz, you've mentioned him a few times over. I mean, if we're in a position that we think he would start at Manchester United suddenly, should we completely overlook it?
Um, I wouldn't say completely overlook because you never want to do that with an attacking prospect on Arsenal, but it's the opening run, and again, it's the uncertainty over what types of games does Arteta want to use the different profile of attackers that he has, and how does he see them all working together? Um, that uncertainty for me is enough to put me off. And also, like I was saying, the fact that he's coming back from a very serious injury and how I think people overlook, or certainly people outside of Arsenal overlook, how much Arteta likes Havertz as a player for the options that he brings and for the work that he puts in. Um, and I think Arteta will know how much he was missed in the latter stages of last season and will be very hesitant to kind of repeat that scenario.
Okay. And when are we expecting Jesus back?
If at all, to be honest. I
Wow.
think there's a very high likelihood that if he's fit, he will be sold before the end of the window or loaned somewhere. I don't see him as a consideration.
Yeah, I sort of say he's been really unlucky
Yeah,
with
yeah.
injuries, and obviously this latest one was a bit of a freak one as well. Okay, go on then. As it stands, predict the lineup at Old Trafford.
Oh, do you want me to go back to front or you got some?
Well, I think we know Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Lewis, Skelly. I think we're okay to assume Gabriel's going to be fine at this stage, aren't we?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, I think so.
I just mean the sense he hasn't had as much of a pre-season as others.
Yeah. No, I think Arteta's the confidence that he has in that centre back pairing, I think he just doesn't want to risk it really.
Yeah, okay, go on then in front of that.
So I would assume Zubimendi, um, then Rice and Odegaard in midfield. And I'm saying this with the caveat that if Madueke plays more than, in fact, if he plays 45 minutes on in the friendly that we've got on Saturday, I think he starts at Old Trafford. Um, and to be honest, I would say the same about Havertz. I think if Havertz is fit enough to start and play 45 or maybe like 50 minutes in the first friendly, then I think he'll also start at Old Trafford.
So
I think Arteta's preference, if both Gyökeres and are fit, is that Havertz starts the opening day.
right, okay. So that was going to kind of be the follow-up. What happens if they both play 45? Who do you think starts at United? You're saying you think Havertz,
Yeah.
but then you think what Gyökeres would come in against Leeds,
Um, yeah. It's tough to say.
and
I
then it
think he'll
goes
get
back to
enough.
Havertz at Liverpool. It's interesting this dynamic.
It is. It's kind of one that because they haven't been fit together in pre-season, we haven't really been able to see enough of. Like, obviously, if Havertz had been fit for the game last night, we would have been able to see a little bit more how the team shaped up, how the team attacked with them both as options. Um, so yeah, it's really tough to say. But I think if both are fit, Havertz starts the opening game.
So this largely seems a bigger void. I suspect, Adam, we're going to be revisiting this in a number of weeks, and it's going to be,
Mhm.
yep, them three, don't piss about, get them in. It's probably going to look a little bit like that, but I feel personally, other than maybe a defensive one, yeah, it feels like an overlook
Yeah, yeah.
from the start, I think.
Mm.
Where do you think you finish?
Um, It's, I'll tell you what, it's interesting. It's a second or first conversation in my head, like not a first, second, or third kind of debate. If Isak goes to Liverpool, like that's it. Like I don't think we've got a hope, to be quite honest. If he doesn't, I think we've maybe got a bit more of a chance. But with the reinforcements they've already made, it's going to be an uphill battle.
I will predict you to win the league again because it's
Yes.
working.
Because you're a horrible jinx. That's why.
But actually, no, truthfully, I don't like this time last year. I felt actually really strongly
Mhm.
that you would win it. I don't feel as strong about that this time, but I think that's more an unknown element at Manchester City, and the squad is bulked up. And obviously, yeah, we are looking at things with Liverpool. We feel much stronger about Liverpool than we did this time last year.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think ultimately the three of you, if you all the players stayed fit all season, I find it really difficult to separate you actually. And I think ultimately it probably get decided by things like injuries, like last year losing Odegaard and then Saka for certain periods and stuff like that. It might genuinely get settled by something like that. I would say with Isak going to Liverpool, I've seen this so many times where teams blow people out of the water and it just doesn't, for whatever reason, doesn't click straight away. And last year Liverpool didn't do any business and then won it comfortably. So could go both ways. You'll definitely be in the mix again, mate. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Any concern if there's a horrendous start, I don't know, you win one of those first six. There's going to be an element of the fan base that may turn. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think you kind of saw. I think there is more pressure from the fans on Arteta this season than there has been before, for certain. I think, especially almost weirdly added pressure because of the summer we've had. Like we've made a lot of, and we are looking with Eze anyway to make win now moves, and I think people are quickly forgetting kind of how bad things have been prior to like the last 3 years. And I think for a lot of people, another second place finish won't cut it. And
No, no, no. It feels like you've got to finish first, and there isn't because of the quality the other two. Maybe there isn't a shame in, by the way, not finishing
yeah, yeah, yeah.
first. It's like it's not easy, but I think every football fan wants to see progression. And there's obviously an element of the Arsenal fan base at the moment who feel like you're stuck, maybe.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it does feel like a big season. I agree with you. Good luck for the season, mate. Hong Kong Festival champions. You'll never sing that. Thank you, my friend. Anything you want to plug before we finish?
No, you can follow me on X at 35who, spelled out in letters. But yeah, that's it.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, my friend. Good luck for the season. Next up in Correspondent Week, it's Sam Murray's joining me to talk Brighton. I've got some very important questions to ask him. Leaves me to say thanks, Adam. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.